to the Planning Board meeting for the town of East Fishkill. It's November 21st, 2023. Will everyone rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Upcoming meeting dates are December 19th, 2023 and January 16th, 2024. We have the minutes from the last meeting that took place on October 17th for approval. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We also have the 2024 meeting schedule. And so I'll accept a motion to approve this 2024 meeting schedule that includes the following dates: January 16th, February 20th, March 19th, April 16th, May 21st, June 18th, July 16th, August 20th, September 17th, October 15th, November 19th, December 17th, all meetings starting at 6 p.m.
It's still Tuesday.
So at the third Tuesday of each month, as usual. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. So the first item on the agenda is an adjourned public hearing for Formicola subdivision. We've received a request from the applicant to further adjourn this to the next meeting in December. So could I have a motion to further adjourn that meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have a public hearing tonight for Gasland East Fishkill Wine and Spirits. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We also need to declare lead agency, so could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So the applicant is here.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Kerrigan, civil engineer with LaBella Associates, representing this project. We, since the last time we were before this board, made some minor changes to the plan. Rather than have the water services for the liquor store and apartment building come directly off the main, it is now tying into the rear of the existing gas station convenience mart building and then distributing to the site from there. In addition, there is a water service going to the auto shop. Previously, they have their restrooms located within the convenience mart building. They're going to now have a sink just for washing their hands effectively while they're working throughout the day. So we've added that connection there as well as the sewer. We received the comments from the town's consultants. We see no major issues there. I do want to just mention it was requested that accident data be provided for the entrances. We have begun to request those from the state, but I've been told they take a little while, so we may not have those for the next submission, and they have to be in a future submission. We have made changes where we've added the dumpsters to the rear. We had shown them on the previous submission. We made a minor modification to make it access to those a bit easier. And beyond that, there really haven't been that many changes to the plan since the last submission, and we're awaiting any questions.
So questions or comments from board members? Questions or comments from our professionals?
I have a couple comments that are from the traffic engineer who's not here tonight, but I'll relay them to you. One is that he's concerned, and I think this may have come up in previous meetings, that the parking for the liquor store may make it difficult if someone's backing out of that space. It might have a conflict with the people coming in off of 52 there. So 376. So they're concerned if someone's backing out, then it might cause a queue and then cause a backup into 376. So he would like you to eliminate the parking stall in front of the liquor store to avoid conflicts with the entrance.
Yes, I saw those comments. I was planning on reaching out to him sometime next week to discuss that. There is room for a vehicle to be in the entrance and not in Route 376, and there is also the opportunity for them to bypass that initial entrance and come around through the entrance further to the east. I was going to discuss that with him and see if those were
Yeah,
options.
because he may have you sign something or, put some signs up or something like that. Okay, so you'll have to discuss that with him, but I concur. I think that I noted that as an issue early on, so I think that that's something that has to be addressed. He also wants you to indicate the location of the tenant parking spaces. Where are you proposing for the tenants to park on the site? Can you point it out?
So let me switch to that sheet. So we identify a few locations for tenant parking, just given the nature of the site. So spaces here would be for this building, and spaces I went back a sheet. Spaces here and here and here would be for share between this building and this building.
Are you planning to sign those spaces as tenant parking only?
We hadn't intended to do that as of yet. We were open to it, but.
I mean, I
that
think you
would-
may have to, because you can't have somebody that's living there come in and have all the spaces taken up by people that are in the store. I would imagine that you'd have to at least have some designated spots for the tenants.
We can add signs to the plan. That's not an issue.
So that is something else to address with the traffic engineer. You also are due to go, I don't believe you've been there yet, to the ARC.
Yes, my understanding is that the plans are still being developed. I don't believe they've made a submission yet, though.
Okay, because we cannot close this public hearing until you've met with them, because our public hearing is their public hearing, so we need to see the drawings here. So this will have to remain open until they have gone through the process with the ARC.
Understood.
And I know there was some question about sidewalk path in front of the building that doesn't currently exist, that I thought that was it added into the plan, or?
In front of the,
Right along 376, I was going to say 52.
so there is currently, let's pan to that area real quick.
Trying to think.
So there is a portion of asphalt that runs along this edge of the building currently. It ends somewhere around where the cursor is right here. We are proposing to extend it around to reach this, the entrance for the apartments in the rear.
But I'm talking about, like, eventually, the idea here is like that we have sidewalks on, I assume it's going to be both sides of 376. So I'm saying that any projects being put in front of us, that there's some proviso made for sidewalks in front of this. So I'm talking about passenger concrete sidewalks that
You're
are
talking
made
about
to
pedestrian sidewalks
specifications.
along Route 376?
Yes.
Yes, there is, there is an existing sidewalk, I think, at least on the
one side.
on the one side, yes.
So there would have to be, I know that there's some setback issues here too, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct in saying that?
I'm pulling it up so you
Okay.
can look at what's gone out there right now.
But we've exempted the applicant from that under our discretion.
We're grandfathering the building in
Yes.
from that point, but
Correct.
still wanting to have the sidewalks. Am I correct in saying that, or no?
I mean, I think it's definitely a good discussion to have. It
Yeah.
depends on what happens with this area in the future, and I'm looking right now, there doesn't appear to be, trying to see if there's anything down the street at all.
And then is there the parking situation that exists for the structure as we're looking at it today? how does that fit with, or add to, with what they're doing for the parking in the future? Like how many, is there 2 apartments going to be above this?
2 apartments above the existing Convenience Mart. The plans for that, I believe, were issued as part of the building permit approval
Okay.
process. There is adequate parking currently for those 2.
Okay.
We will need to rearrange some of the parking, specifically on the western side of the site in front of the auto shop and the liquor store to make sure we have enough for all the uses once.
Yeah, and then to delineate certain spots to then the tenant, marked, I guess.
Yeah,
as
we,
was asked.
we can add signage to make sure that it's memorialized as being specifically for the tenant parking.
And so the tenants will enter their apartments through the rear of the building?
In the liquor store building, yes, as well as I believe for the Convenience Mart building.
And so does that allow for egress? Like, have you guys taken a look at
Well, that's
that?
what I was going to bring up, was just to make
Fire
sure.
advisory and
people
fire
need to be egress
commission.
from that second-story apartment for life safety.
I'll confirm that.
I was looking at the site. So currently, there appears to be relatively new sidewalk that extends for most of the frontage of the site. There's just a small piece in the corner. Is that what you're referring to?
I am, like, just to
It's like-
see that it continues, like, if their property line, let's say, I'm just going to use round numbers and say it's 100 feet, and they're missing 20 feet, I think it should just be, if it's part of the project, we should just have them finish it to their property line.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's probably maybe 8 feet.
So
It's
we're-
not
we're-
even-
we're-
it's not very-
Way to the sidewalk, or do you mean?
I'm talking about
The frontage.
along the frontage.
There is, for most of it, there's just a corner of this.
On the east side,
On
correct?
the east side that is missing
Okay.
a little segment, which may be good to have connected because Taconic Innovations is right there.
Yeah,
There is a property in between, so we wouldn't
Yes.
be able to connect all the way across. but
Eventually,
we can-
yeah.
We can tie it in, as you said, to the edge of
Yeah.
the property line.
yeah.
Tie it into that little corner.
It's just so it's continuous.
I think that's a good comment.
I think that's all I had.
Any other questions or comments from professionals? Christian?
Yes, regarding the lighting plan, the light levels on the highway side of the liquor store should be brought down a little bit, and the color temperature should be lowered. And this is really a question for the board as to whether or not the light levels on the property in total need to be considered, because right now their analysis is just for the new building. I would just toss that comment out there. The water main extension is going to require a highway work permit from DOT and approval from Health Department. Those conditions should be added to the resolution of approval. And regarding the water feed, they're coming in off of the main, serving the gas station, and then from the gas station, you're splitting off to serve 2 buildings and 4 tenants total. You have 2 apartments, and you got a liquor store, and then you got the garage.
Right, so the 2 apartments above they're coming in for the one, but yes, yeah.
Okay, how are those going to be metered?
We're still examining that. Currently, the way it's set up is there is a utility room in the rear of the gas station building, and that's the well feed goes to there. So the thought was to utilize that space and perhaps have the meters on the exterior back there. There is an existing area that would allow for a vehicle to read in this area here for the reader to be able to be read while staying outside of kind of the flow of traffic. And then from there, it would branch off to the individual buildings.
Okay, and then you have a separate 2-inch proposed fire service line for liquor stores on its own separate branch.
Yes.
That's going to need to be backflow prevention and metered on that line as well, if you're going to do it that way.
Okay, yep.
I'd like to just go back to the lighting for a second. Is this gas station open 24 hours?
I believe so, yes.
Because lighting is a concern. There's residences around, right? So you want to have as low lighting levels as possible, especially when people are living above and having to have those lights in their house, throughout the night. So I would say for sure we should take a look at what the lighting levels are at the rest of the site and make sure that we're not, make sure that we don't need to lower some of those.
I don't believe we have the actual fixture information for the lights on the site, but we can perhaps find a way to record that information. We aren't making any changes to the lighting throughout the site with the exception of the proposed building.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I had a light meter at one point. I don't know if we still have it. I can go out there maybe and take some measurements.
Yes, it would be, I guess it would be limited to what we could pick up with that, not a photometric plan, with the,
Yeah, the only other comment I had is I noted we got comments from Dutchess County Planning. They're identifying this as a matter for local consideration. They had a few comments, and I believe one of their comments was stacking and queuing coming in off the highway near the liquor store.
was about, I'm sorry, what?
They had a comment regarding stacking and queuing in front of the liquor store coming in off the highway.
Yeah, I think that's the comment that Brendan had in his about eliminating the parking stall. That's why I wanted him to eliminate the parking
Yeah,
stall there.
county had the same comment.
Okay, Fire Advisor, any questions or comments?
Yes, I understand from what he just said, they're not going to extend the water main?
No, we are going to extend the water main.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought you said in the beginning you weren't going to.
No, we are extending it. We're not taking, before we had shown the service coming off the main directly to the liquor store building. Now it's routing through the site.
Okay. So you still have plans for a sprinkler system within the,
That is, yeah.
and is our comment, I don't know if you got our comments or not, but that needs to be engineered. I'm not sure a 2-inch line is big enough for a high hazard area. You've got hundreds of gallons of flammable liquid below living spaces, so it may take more than a 2-inch line to supply the water needs.
We received the comments. We're looking at that currently, yeah.
And also, there's going to be 2 apartments above the convenience store?
Yes.
2 apartments or 1 2-bedroom?
Two one-bedroom.
2 one-bedrooms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that would be multiple means of egress from each? then?
Yes.
Okay.
And is that alarmed? Does that have a fire alarm system now?
I believe so, but I'll confirm that.
It'll be extended to those apartments?
Yes, I believe so. I believe that was worked out when they got the building permit.
Okay.
Okay, are there any members of the public here to offer comments or questions on the project? If not, anything else from any board members or professionals?
I don't have a design thing, but just to note, if you connect into the district, it would be as an out-of-district user, which are just different rates, just to be aware.
Okay, so we'll adjourn this public hearing to next month, if you'll be ready for that. That necessarily needs to include all of the elevations of the buildings and everything, presentation to the ARC, so that we can wrap that part up as well as all the other things we've talked about.
Understood. Did we do, the next mission for the ARC is, do we know when that is? December 5th? Okay. I will follow up with the architect to get that together.
Okay, great. So I'll accept a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Pothick Pause. I said that.
You did. 3 times fast.
Pothick Pause.
Hello.
So I tell you what, I'd like to get just a little housekeeping out of the way since I have this opportunity. Can I have a motion to declare lead agency?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good. Please continue.
Hi. How are you? So I'm Jessica. I'm the owner of Pawford Pups Pet Care Service. So I've actually been in front of you guys before for a different building, so I don't know if anyone remembers me. The last couple months I've been working closely with the zoning board I've gotten everything done on their end. I've done a public hearing with them, so now they sent me back to you guys. So basically, in the last couple months, I just have this small space. I rent out the back end of a building on 376. Basically, what we're looking to do is have 4 playrooms to separate the dogs by age, breed, size, and temperament. They'll come in during their hours while their parents are at work. They'll go and play during the day, send home at night. We do offer occasional boarding. For boarding, we do have staff on schedule all night. That way, we don't have dogs barking in the middle of the night, inconveniencing anyone around us. We did send in all of our paperwork to declare lead agency, so that's all taken care of.
Excellent. So is this similar to the operation that you presented to us last time?
Yes, it's same concept, just different place.
How many dogs can you accommodate?
So usually I like to do about 10 to a playroom, so no more than 40 a day. I like to keep an 8 to 10 dog to staff ratio. That way there's eyes on every single dog at all times. So usually about, I would say 40 to cut off for now.
Got it.
And what about outdoor play? Is there any outdoor?
Yep, so we have a fenced-in backyard. Right now, it's a chain link fence that has a mesh covering over it, so the dogs can't see out, people can't see in. The zoning board did recommend, and we're going to plant some nice trees just outside of the fence, give it more of an aesthetic, pleasing look. We haven't had any issues with sound or anything. The dogs are never left unattended outside. There's no kennels outside. It's just open, free play for that playroom to go out, play, and then come back in.
So that's my next question. So it would be only up to the 10 dogs at one time inside that gated area?
Yeah, some days, like when it's really nice, since the yard is fenced in and it's pretty big, we'll put a separate gate that doesn't attach to the fence right in the middle, and we might let 2 play groups out at the same time. But if we find that they're being loud or they're barking, they do get sent right back inside. Don't want to disturb the neighbors, especially because we know we have the kids next door. They're outside during, when they have recess and stuff, so we try not to keep the dogs out when they're in recess and when the kids are getting dropped off and picked up, just that way the dogs aren't distracted by what's going on next door.
So you're currently in operation?
Yes.
Okay.
So what, landscaping, I think, is a question we have. Do you have plans for landscaping and for screening of any kind, natural screening?
Yes, so I have, actually, she's a client of mine. She is a gardener for her career. So she was looking at different options for nice, just like tall trees, but that aren't too big, that will stay all year round, that won't get, they won't die with the amount of dogs that they're around, so they're meant to thrive in dog conditions. That way they always stay beautiful, they always stay nice. We do have a landscaper who comes and does our lawn, he does our mulch, he leaf blows, so that's always kept up as well.
Okay. Other questions or comments by board members? Any questions or comments from our professionals?
Are you keeping any of the dogs overnight, and how many, if you are?
So boarding's really something that's like kind of really periodic. It's not something that's big. So like, this week, because it's Thanksgiving, I'll have like 2 or 3 during Wednesday night before Thursday while people go to do their things, but it's not something on average. And then we have the staff stay with them at night.
And as far as the landscaping is, where are you proposing the landscaping?
So if you're on 376 and you're looking at our building, you'll see the building, and then you'll see offset to the back is the fenced-in area, and you can see that from the road. So the zoning board had proposed that we put some plants right in front of it, so when people are driving by, it's just nicer to look at.
And what about, because doesn't the rail trail run right behind your site?
So we're not right behind, we lead our backyard, there's a house behind us, and then it leads to the neighborhood that is adjacent to when 376, if you're coming down by the golf course.
Can you see the
Dogwood.
fenced-in area from the rail trail?
No.
And just a point of clarification, the ZBA is still conducting its review. It won't finish it until this board makes a secret determination. Since it's a coordinated review under secret, this board will have to make some sort of environmental determination first.
Okay.
So I'll just give you by way of background. We've had we have 3 actually doggy daycares either in process right now or have already been approved in the last, year. So we have had a number of noise complaints into our office. And we have been out a couple of times after we received these complaints, and I haven't actually been to your facility, so I'm not talking about her facility, I'm talking about another one of the facilities that's in operation, and did not observe the dogs barking when we were there, but there have been complaints to the police department because of the noise nuisance law. It's actually a police response. As long as they're meeting zoning, we don't really have any authority to do anything for them, so then it becomes a civil matter. So I just wanted to make folks aware that there have been some complaints at other doggy daycares. All 3 of the doggy daycares that are in application right now all have requested variances for what was in the kennel, or the law that we had on the books for kennels, which is the only thing that this use really fits under, requiring about 150 feet from a property line, neighboring property line, and all 3 of the businesses have asked for relief from that requirement. So I just wanted to bring everyone up to date with what's happening as far as the doggy daycare situation here, but it is a popular use right now and obviously needed. People are using these facilities quite a bit, and I will say that, in other towns close by, like Fishkill and Beacon, you'll find the doggy daycare right in the center of Beacon. You'll find in Dogtopia is actually located right in a shopping plaza in Fishkill. So it is not unheard of that these are in close proximity to other uses. It's just that I think sometimes the overnight can create noise. So that's just something to consider.
But the only control measure would be a legal, like a police activity call.
Unless we put some sort of restriction on them with zoning. So the
Yes.
zoning restriction was that they were supposed to be 150 feet from any property line, because that was theoretically, when the original zoning went in, that was theoretically the way that they were going to try to control the noise issues, okay? Once they get a variance, they no longer have to abide by that 150 feet. So they received a variance, and they don't have to meet that 150-foot setback anymore. But there have been noise issues at some of these places. It's hard to know sometimes whether or not it's just a neighborly dispute that's gone too far, or whether or not there's an actual real issue. But I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, because we have received these complaints, and we have had, the police officers have had to respond. And, obviously that's not a great use of their time.
No.
So.
But then our control measure that we could put in place would be to either limit their hours or their ability to have
Overnight
the dogs
dog,
overnight
like if that's what
stay.
or, I don't know if there's any other creative suggestions that anyone else has. In one location, we asked for noise blankets, but, they're so close to the neighboring property where they're hearing it that those aren't really working. So, we like to try to keep the dogs as far away from any other uses that might be impacted by them. So.
Now, in those instances, were there like multiple dogs being let out at night?
I think, from what I can tell, that it might depend on the day and the dogs that are there.
Yeah.
And some are just bark more than others. Sure. And so, so it's pretty hard to control, right?
Yeah.
If the owner of the business is on top of things and brings the dogs
Yes.
in and takes care of it, then it's usually not an issue, right?
Yeah,
So-
that would be my general sentiment. Like if she were to house, let's say, and you limited it to X overnight, but then, maybe one dog at a time in and out, or I don't know how you limit the activity that way, but, and then it would have to be monitored. How would we monitor that? All
I
right.
just wanted to let everyone know
Yeah,
that that's
no,
been
that's a good point.
Well, I assume, I could be wrong, this time of year might be different because it gets dark so early, but you're not letting the dogs out in the middle of the night to play.
Oh, no.
Right, like-
No. And when they do sleep over, if they have to go out during night, like usually for us, like our last potty walk is usually about like 9:30, because dogs have to be a certain age to come to me. I don't take young puppies. So usually they're all well-behaved, trained dogs, so they go outside one by one. Usually they're pottied at 9, and then they're fine till the next morning. And then also our walls inside are actually soundproofed because of the previous business that was there. So we have that, and then we work closely with a trainer that's local to the area. We bring her in to evaluate our play groups, to check over our dogs, everything like that. So if we do come across a dog that started daycare and then is an incestual barker or has like the genetics to want to bark like hounds, we'll bring her in, we'll set up a meeting with the parents and the dog, let them go through training. If not, they will be dismissed from our program. I really can't tolerate the overness of barking either, so it's one thing I'm pretty firm on.
So then you do have current measures in place to try to mitigate?
Yes, so like even for dogs to start with us, we have a process. You can't just like walk in one day and say like, hi, I want to try my dog out. You have to call us, you have to set up a virtual meet and greet, you have to go through the contract, the paperwork, the policies, the procedures. Then we set up what we call a trial day. It's a 3-hour period where the dog comes. First, the dog is safety and temperament tested with the staff, make sure they're friendly, make sure they listen, make sure they know their commands, make sure they're well-mannered. Then from there, we introduce them to other dogs. Then from there, we'll place them in a kennel and see how they do, and are they a crazy barker? How do they do with other dogs? Do other dogs stimulate them to the point that they bark? If we notice any of these things during that first initial trial day, we'll tell the parent, at this time they didn't pass, here's a trainer we recommend. If you see improvement in the behavior, you're welcome to come back and try again. If not, then they're dismissed, and then they just can't come.
So, and that's what I just want to bring up, you know, she's a great manager, she manages all of this really super well, and in the event that the business changes hands and somebody else goes in there, they're allowed to have dogs overnight, okay? So I don't know if, you know, I just want to make that clear. I don't know that there's any way to restrict that, I just want to make it clear, okay?
Okay.
So.
All right. Good discussion. Are you aware of any complaints that have been made about your operation there?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yep, and we've made friendly with all of our neighbors. The neighbor behind us has dogs of their own, so we're friendly with them. The kids' daycare, a lot of the kids actually like the dogs, so the parents will drive over into the parking lot and like ask them to come to say hi, and like we have pictures on the walls of the dogs, so the kids will come look at the pictures. We're very big patrons between Stewart's and Pizza Time and the Chinese food place. We're in there every other day ordering food, so they all know we're there. We have a good relationship with just about everyone about us that we've met. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we did receive one complaint, I think it was last week, on her facility, overnight. I think it was an overnight person who
And
was
we
talking
haven't
about.
been able to substantiate because there's a question of whether it's coming from another residence nearby.
Yes,
So
that's what I was
that's
worried
what we're
about.
not
So there is,
sure.
the people that live
Been calls.
behind me have, I'm assuming they're hunting dogs, and they have like a big outdoor kennel that they're in a lot. So even like when my dogs go outside to play, if I hear their dogs start barking, we bring our dogs back in so they don't start barking with them. Like our dumpster closes, those dogs start going off.
So you don't know whether the complaint came about the other dogs,
Correct.
not necessarily
We haven't
her
been able to-
operation?
Right,
Okay.
Got it.
because I haven't been out there at 10 o'clock to,
Really? Come on.
The closest one you'll get is if Norma lives by us from the zoning board, so she walks by our building pretty often.
Yeah.
So am I correct, we do need to schedule a public hearing for this?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
So when you have employees working overnight, are they awake? Is there a?
They're awake.
Okay. there's not
Nope,
a-
they have to stay awake with the dogs to make sure, because the dogs are physically with them. So whether they're in crates or kennels and the attendant's in the same room, or if they're in there just hanging out on the couch, or we do have a room that has like a bed in it, that's more of like a home style. So we have a TV in the room, but everyone's awake. And then when we had originally went into the building in the back portion already had a kitchenette back there. So they have a little kitchenette to make themselves whatever. We have a fridge for them and everything, so they can properly take care of themselves overnight.
And the dogs are during the night in kennels or crates?
So most of them are in kennels unless we have like one dog that comes in or a senior dog that has bad anxiety or something. If we have permission from the owner for them to stay with them, let's say there was a case where we had 2 separate families staying. If we felt the need, 2 of us would stay. Usually it's me and my husband that are there.
All right.
Okay. So I think the next opportunity for a public hearing will be the December meeting. Is that something you can be
That's great.
prepared to do? And you're already familiar with the notification process? Okay, very good. So,
Jessica, just so you know, we're tight with the timing for the December meetings, the 19th, so you'll have to get those notices out right away.
Okay.
So just work with Jackie on that
Perfect.
as soon as possible.
Great.
Okay?
okay.
All right.
So could I have a motion to schedule a public hearing for this applicant for the December meeting?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll see you then.
Thank you, have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, then, next item on the agenda is Stack and Store. So, little housekeeping. We need to, I'll accept a motion to declare lead agency.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're all set.
Yeah, perfect.
Sorry. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Pulowski. I'm a civil engineer here on behalf of BDC Holdings. I work with Solely Engineering. We're a civil engineering firm out of Monroe, Connecticut. We also have an office in Norwood, Massachusetts. We're here to talk about 1088, 1090, 1092, 1094, and 1096 Route 82 in East Fishkill, New York. We are proposing a 82,950 square foot self-storage facility. We originally submitted it about a year ago for a sketch plan. We were intending to go through a variance process and obtain some floor area ratio variances. We ended up not doing that as our client purchased an additional property to eliminate that need for relief. So we've been before you once before. This is a discussion. Tonight we are hoping that you would declare lead agency, which you have, so thank you on that. We'd also hope that you would set the hearing for December 19th. And I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm happy to go through and answer any questions that you may have, and I will save the bulk of the presentation for the public hearing.
So, questions or comments by board members at this juncture? Any?
I think we were looking to try to understand, I think last time, some of the elevations, and we really didn't see a true rendering of this. It was like a kind of like
Well,
something.
the last time, if you recall, the image that he's showing on the screen right now was more similar to the image that he provided during the sketch plan review. Then the last time they were in front of you, they came in with a more of a, I don't know,
Boxy,
industrial-looking box
modern-esque, yes.
building. They have since gone in front of the ARC and modified their drawings based on comments. Are you finished with the process of the ARC?
Yes, so that's, sorry, go ahead.
And then, so they have been going through that process, so that now I believe this is the proposal in front of us.
Okay.
That is correct. So we've gone to the ARC multiple times now, and I believe we've addressed all of their comments. They don't issue a formal approval, as you know, because they go in conjunction with your board, so they are just waiting for you guys to have the public hearing. But we've changed the look, thank you, as mentioned, to this more, I guess I want to say residential feel, if you will. It blends into the neighborhood a lot better. I do want to make one note on the application description. It's listed as 82,538 square feet. As part of the architectural changes, we had to rearrange some features to add more bump outs, if you will, and make it look less straight across the front. So we're now at 82,950 square feet. And we also had to change the siding and some other things that our architect worked through. So again, just a minor change there. We're still within our limits for floor area ratio. So we, again, don't need a variance or anything of that nature. So yes, we've gone through ARC. We're here tonight. You declared the lead agency. We're hoping you set the public hearing. We're proposing an 82,950 square foot self-storage facility. This is a rendering prepared by our architect. There is no outdoor storage, there's no overhead doors. The reason I mention that is that's pretty typical of our applicant. We've worked with them on several other sites, and in town, though, keeping with the regulations, we're not proposing any of that as part of this application. So this is a zoomed out rendering of the site if you're looking down from an aerial standpoint. So we have Clove Branch Road here that continues, and then we have Route 82 that runs this direction, and then you have our site. There's going to be 2 full movement access drives there with stop signs, so you can enter on this side right here, and you can enter to the south here, and you can also exit. Both entrances and exits are full movement. As you move around the building, it's one-way circulation, so there's gate here, because the intent of the business is you arrive, if you're interested in renting a self-storage unit, there's a multitude of parking along the front of the building that is ungated, unsecure, so anyone can come up and access that. You enter the rental office, fill out necessary paperwork, there's a list of prohibited items, things of that nature, and then you receive the keys or the passcode to your unit, and that is when you would proceed to around the back of the building. So again, there's a gate here. To enter, it's one way. You proceed around the back of the building, and we have some parking spaces in the back that are for unloading and offloading, and you could also unload and offload in the front of the building as well. I know there are questions about some elevations, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But so you'd rent your unit, you place your stuff, and then you'd exit the facility out the one-way drive, continuing this direction. And
Garage doors in the back?
yeah, so there's another gate in the back right here that prevents people from entering this direction. So you have to go one way, up this way, and then down, and there's another gate when you want to exit this way, because we do have land bank parking, which I'll get to in just a second. So this is our site plan. So current town regulations require us to have 83 parking spaces. Typically, for this applicant, we do no more than 15 to 20. It's not a high traffic generation site. You come, you drop your stuff off, and then maybe they see you in 3 months, 6 months, a year even. It's a storage facility, so there's not frequent trips, or maybe sometimes there are, but the traffic is very minimal, so typically we do 15 to 20 spaces. This facility has 25. We're land banking or proposing to land bank 58 spaces as part of our proposal. So that's the reason that the gate is located in this area, because in the future, if we are required to construct those land bank spaces, we wanted that area outside of the gate so everyone could access it. But again, we provided necessary supporting documentation that we don't believe that our facility needs 83 spaces. We wanted to maintain as much green space as possible and limit the amount of pavement and asphalt that we are required to install.
Michelle, why so many spaces for a self-storage facility?
The storage parking requirement in our code was not intended for self-storage. It was intended for storage, like warehousing storage. So it was 1 to 1,000, and it has not been updated, the parking schedule. So we, and previously, like for Stormville Square storage, I looked at that tonight, it was, we had approved 29 spaces for 36,000 square feet for that building, but I believe we actually were considering less than that. They wanted the additional parking because at the time with COVID, I think they weren't exactly sure how they were going to be using the building. So, but I think we certainly can look at the information or have Brendan look at the information provided and determine that I would agree that they do not need as many spaces as our code requires.
Well, and also if we eliminated some, it would create a much greater buffer, because the buffer that's required here is really the residential's behind this building.
Correct.
So if we, shrunk that, it would definitely create a nicer buffer between the residents behind the building and the building itself.
Absolutely.
What's the distance from the back of the building to the property line?
Thank you.
I believe about 250 feet, if I can read, there's a dimension on the site plan right here. So we're pretty significantly far. And we are also planting a buffer along this back row here in addition, just to provide more screening to the neighbors. But really only if we have to install the land bank parking in the future would we be anywhere close to the residential. And we kind of designed the site with that in mind, if you will, because we were looking at different orientations of the building and things in that nature, but we really wanted to keep it as close to the street and away from the surrounding residences.
What about the rear lighting?
All of our lighting is dark sky compliant, and there's really just lighting on the building and a few light poles scattered throughout the site. But again, I don't know how, I apologize, I don't know how familiar you are all with dark sky compliant lighting, but essentially nothing goes up into the sky, it's all just straight down. So.
And are you allowing 24-hour access?
There is 24-hour access, but it's only via the gate, so there's no new customers.
So do you have lights on 24 hours a day then? I understand dark sky
Correct.
compliant, but there are, okay.
On the building at least, but throughout the site, I'm not too sure about that at this point, but I can discuss with the applicant and have that answer at the public hearing in December. So.
Do you have any idea roughly how far the closest residence is from the back? I mean, you have your setback, your property line, but do you know how close the closest?
The closest residence, I believe, would be this property right here, if you can see my cursor, and I want to say they're at least 100 feet to our building, but I can get another exact answer on that. But again, to the rear, we're over 250 feet, and there is a row of houses in the back here. But
And how does
that's
the-
even farther.
I'm sorry. How does the grade change behind the building? Does it get higher beyond the building, lower?
Correct. So I'll skip to the grading plan here. So as part of our grading and drainage plan, we're proposing 2 stormwater basins. So when the lowest point of the property is right here, it's essentially elevation 280. And then you enter the site, and we've really tucked the building into the hill, if you will. So when you're standing in front of the building, you're looking at 2 levels. But then when you drive around the back, there's ramps on both sides that increase the elevation about 11 feet. So the first floor is buried in the rear, and you're accessing from the second level. So again, you're at like 280, 282 right here. You climb up, and 288 is the first floor, all on the front of the building. You're looking at the front, and you see 2 levels. When you travel around the rear of the building, you're climbing an additional 11 feet, and you're at 299 elevation in the back. And then as you get up to the rear of the site, there's actually a nice mountaintop or ridge. So it climbs up to elevation 312 or 314, and then there's about 6 or 8 feet of dip down back towards the rear property.
So you almost have like a natural berm.
Exactly, and it really works well, and we're planting, again, some additional buffer trees along that back ridge, if you will.
Now, is the building going to have a complete fire protection system?
Correct. So we've got a 2-inch domestic line for water and then a 6-inch fire line. We have not yet received comments from the fire department. I'm sure they'll be coming as part of the public hearing. But the entire building is completely sprinklered. It's monitored 24/7. There's a professional monitoring company. There's alarms. There's security. There's everything. It's got cameras. And that's the worst thing they would ever want to happen. So yes, the building is completely
And then the
sprinklered.
ability, obviously, the gated entrances so that they'll have some type of accessibility or code that would allow them free passage in there at any given time during an emergency process?
Absolutely, yeah. There's I don't know if it's a code or if it's just an automatic detector that when they see the fire trucks or when an alarm is activated, that the gates automatically go up. But we've also designed the site so that we have the fire truck turning template from the town, so thank you very much for providing that. And we've designed it so that their largest truck can accommodate throughout the entire site, including the back.
Egress.
So-
And then what about internal staircases that would have them be able to, go up and down in order to do the same?
That's correct. So there's a number of internal staircases. That's all part of the building permit application, which we have not yet filed, but pending approval from the board here. I'm sure the fire department will look at that as well and have comments or sign off on the number of staircases and all of the egress requirements.
So if you go back to the site plan, if I'm reading it correctly, it looks like there's is it 1 lane of traffic that comes down and then the parking spaces that sort of come off to the right side there?
That's correct.
Just the one thing that comes to mind is maybe opening that space up a little bit more all the way to the north end of the building and designating parking space for fire that would be sort of parallel to those parking spaces and opening that up a little bit so that should we have to operate on that side of the building, we're not crammed right up against the side of the building there, that we have a little bit of space away from the building.
I appreciate that. That's a great comment, because we did provide fire lanes here, but they are rather narrow, so we could definitely look at essentially making this area right here additional
Yeah,
pavement and then
actually,
striping it.
thinking on the, like on the opposite side, running up the north side of the,
So you're talking right over here?
area there, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would work. So the reason that we're actually tucked out of there, there's a residential zone line.
Okay.
But I don't believe that, it's not a building that we're proposing in the residential zone, so I don't believe it would be an issue, but I will double check with town staff on that.
Are you proposing any grading in the R1 zone?
In the R1 zone, maybe a little bit, but hardly anything at all. We're trying to keep all the commercial activity out of the R1 zone.
Right, like you're saying, I think that's sort of a salient point too, that all the commercial activity is going to have to stay in the commercial zone.
Correct, yeah.
So I don't, maybe this is because of fire, but why do you need two entrances for a building like this?
Just circulation and access. So it's hard for large trucks to make tight turns on site. So for example, if we eliminate this entrance, then the trucks, the fire trucks have to come here and then try to make this tight turn, and it cuts off parking and landscaping and other things, and it's just easier in terms of circulation and flow.
Even moving trucks, I guess.
Even, yeah, so we're anticipating, we did receive some additional comments today from the reviewing engineers. They asked us to analyze a larger size vehicle. We're currently anticipating like your largest box truck, like an SU40, is going to be accessing this facility. And again, if you pinch it to one entrance, it's difficult for fire to get in and out, and it's also difficult for those larger box trucks to get in and out.
Should that become then more of a temporary entrance? And because mostly it'll be domestic vehicles, right, that would be coming to this site?
That's correct, yeah. Your pickup
I don't know, it
trucks
just
and
seems-
stuff like
But
that.
there could also be large moving trucks coming to the site. I think that was the
Correct.
traffic engineer's comment, was that he wanted to see a turning truck analysis for a large moving vehicle, because there could be moving trucks at the site, which was a WB 62.
Yeah, we're going to have a discussion just on that, because typically, again, what you see here is someone, like a homeowner or business, they'll go to Home Depot or Lowe's or a U-Haul, and they don't have CDL as a typical person, so they're going to rent your SU30, your SU40 box truck, whatever you can legally rent without needing a special license for. So we don't typically see WB 62s or 67s at these facilities, but we definitely do see large box trucks, so.
Where are you with DOT?
We have submitted, I believe we've submitted to DOT, but haven't obtained our permit yet, but that will be part of the process.
Have you had any discussions with them? Because normally they would like to have, limit the number of penetrations out onto a highway from a single property.
I apologize, I'm not aware of, I'm not in our traffic division, but I'll definitely can get that answer for the next public hearing.
Yeah, it's
So,
nothing that we consider, it's something that the DOT is going to have to take a look at when it goes through their process. But normally unless there's a need to have more than one entrance onto a state highway, they try to limit it just to one.
Absolutely, thank you, I appreciate the comments.
And I think,
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to give the other comment from Brendan, our traffic engineer, was concerned about the loading area being only approximately 5 feet wide. He wants a loading or unloading area for a large moving truck with sufficient area provided to allow circulation around the vehicle. So that may also go to your comment as well, making an area wider. But you do have to stay out of the residential zone.
Correct, so that is a limitation there. So again, that's why I was looking at this area.
You could always reduce the size of the building.
You can make, I was gonna say, you can make the building a little bit smaller if you need to.
Or try to push it forward. Yeah, there's different options we can look at. I appreciate the comments, and we will, again, we'll look into that, so.
What's at the highest point from the ground, what is the highest point of the building?
So I believe the building is just over 34 feet tall, around 34, 35 feet.
Is that going to require a variance for that area, height-wise?
I think it's up to 35 feet.
Yeah.
I believe it's code compliant.
That's correct. 35 feet is a maximum. I believe we're a foot or two underneath that. And it's actually, most of the building is even lower than that. There's a parapet that comes up that's 3 or 4 feet. So I would say we're really around 31 or 32 feet, if you will. And then again, that's only in the front of the building. The rear is 20 feet because you're built into the grade. So
And all storage units are accessed from inside the building?
that is correct.
And it's climate controlled and?
That is correct, yep.
That's why you've got-
Just as far as the parking goes, I think it's 18 feet. So none of the parking spaces appear to be able to accommodate a truck. Like the box trucks that you're talking about, they're all just normal-sized parking spaces. So what happens when somebody, I mean, I know there's a loading area, but if someone has to pull into a parking space with a larger vehicle?
So again, we never really see these parking lots full, so that's why we use the parking spaces not only for people that are looking to rent new units, but also to accommodate a box truck as well. Or often, like in the drive aisle in the front is 24 feet wide, so they can pull along the side of the drive aisle, and there's still room for trucks to get by and other cars and other vehicles to offload their stuff. So, but again, we're definitely going to be looking at adding a loading space in the back outside of the residential buffer, or potentially moving the building if we have to, so.
But what you're saying would definitely decrease the amount if it was adequately spaced.
Well, I mean, let's just put it this way. People do whatever they want, right? So if somebody pulls in here and blocks the aisle, then that makes it a problem for emergency vehicles. So
Sure.
usually having designated parking that's large enough for a truck is
Right.
sort of a common sense thing to do,
But then it would decrease the amount of spaces that they
unless
would
they
have.
shrunk the building a little bit.
Yeah. It's a consideration.
When you bring that 6-inch main across, you're going to put a hydrant on your side of the,
That was a question that we had for the fire department, and again, we'll wait for their comments. We have room to add the fire hydrant, so happy to add one if there isn't one in the area. So we have no problem doing so.
And is there enough, just looking at the refuse containers over in this corner, is there an ability for I guess just to make sure that the garbage truck can get in and out of there?
Gotcha, yeah, I believe, so you're talking about in this corner here?
Yeah.
They should be able to pull and unload, but I'll double check that distance.
Okay, that should be looked at. And then you have a sign, where's your sign location? Oh, right here, at the entrance, you're proposing the sign.
That's correct. It's in the front, right here, it's a monument sign.
And what about the hours and the lighting? Because you do have residential homes behind you and around you, and we want to make sure that the lighting isn't going to cause, glare and issues for the folks that are living around you. So what I'd like to see, what we've required on the other storage facility is the lights in the evening to just go on motion and on timers.
Okay.
So that they're, if no one's back there, they're not on.
That's something we can look at. If you look at our lighting plan here, we actually have 0-foot candles, and we're not even close to the residential rear here. So the lighting, we modeled it, and there's 0-foot candles surrounding the edge here. So even, we can definitely look at that, but even with the lighting we currently have designed, for example, there's actually 0 pole lights even in the back of the building. It's all just building lighting. So all the pole lights are in the front of the building here. They're shown, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lights. So there's only building lighting in the rear. And again, those foot candles are, I'd say, at least 150 feet, a 0-foot candle away from that residential border.
So I think the issue usually comes when you're looking at a building and you're seeing the wall packs, and you just see the bright lights on them. That's usually what causes the problem, even though they can have low-foot candles. So if there's a way to make it so that won't affect or impact, or you can reduce the impacts to any of the residential homes nearby, that would be great. Are they shielded right now, or how are they?
Correct, they're dark sky compliant.
Okay.
So.
What about in the front of the building? And actually, I just wanted to ask you a question about how many doors are in the back? Like, are you entering only in one? Is there one entrance, or are there multiple entrances?
Correct. There's one main entrance located in the center. I'll flip back here. Centrally located right here. There's one main entrance, but there's 3 or 4 doors there.
Okay.
It's right near the parking spaces. Again, it's.
So you can get in other locations?
In the rear, there's only one, but in the front, yes, there's multiple exits and means of egress.
Do you have fencing around the stormwater retention
Yes,
basins?
we do. There's a fence around both ponds.
What kind of fence are you
I
planning?
believe it is chain link with privacy slats.
Okay.
I had a recommendation to make that split rail fencing, something more rustic because it's visible right from the highway.
I think it'd be more attractive, for sure, yeah.
It's something we're definitely open to. Thank you.
Probably cheaper, too.
Perhaps.
You have a drawing of the back elevation?
Do I have, I'm sorry?
A drawing of the back elevation of the,
I don't have a, let's see if I have a. So this is the front of the building. No, that I have a, of the back, but if you look at the grading and drainage plan here. Again, this is elevation 282, and then we're 299, 298 in the rear here, and then this ridge. I don't know if you
no,
can
I meant
see.
the building elevation.
I don't have a building elevation of the rear, I apologize. I have the front and the sides at this point. Let's see, I might have a rear actually. Yeah, right here, here's a rear elevation. It's not in color, I do apologize, but you can see the access doors in the center, and then the rear, it's just, it's kind of an open facade, if you will.
What's the length?
So there's no garage doors in the back?
No.
So how, I mean, but people unload in the back?
Yes, there's these main access doors that open to 6 or 8 feet wide, so you can get your items through in the back. But there's no garage doors per se. It's not allowed per town regulations.
Has this gone through a code review for life safety?
I don't believe so at the moment.
I wouldn't think so, because you don't have enough exits in the rear.
Yeah. What's the width of that building?
250 or 75 feet.
You've got to come up with multiple ways to get out of the back of that building.
Yep.
Understood. We will have our architect make sure that they do a code compliant
And
review.
did you not receive the Fire Advisory Board comments from in September?
I apologize. That might be on us. I'm not aware of comments from Fire Advisory Board.
Provide that, plus, since it's changed since we last looked at it back in September, we'd like another latest set of plans to review and comment on.
We'll absolutely provide them. Thank you.
I'm looking at your landscaping plan, and along the northern boundary, there's a residence. I think there's a residence right there. And you don't appear to have, it looks like you have meadow kind of proposed along that northern property boundary. I think we need some screening in there.
We'll definitely add some screening, some evergreens or other acceptable trees, if you will.
Okay, other questions or comments?
I have some comments.
Go ahead, thank you, Christian.
From the plans in the report, it indicates that you're estimating about 14,500 cubic yards of material to be removed from the site. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We're going to look for an estimation of how many vehicle trips that's going to take and where you're going to put that material, because that's not an insubstantial amount of material at all.
Understood. We did back of the napkin math today, and it's about 2 to 3 trucks an hour for 20 or so working days, but we'll give it an exact estimation of how long and how many trucks and where the material will be going.
Yeah, because I believe there's a question on the EAF that has vehicular impacts like during construction. And also just clarify whether or not that export quantity includes the grading from the future land bank parking. I know you did grading for that. I don't know if that number included the land bank parking or not.
Don't believe it did, but I will double check.
Okay.
When you say 2 to 3 trucks per hour for 20 days, are you assuming like a 24-hour work cycle? Like, I'm just
No.
trying to understand the volume.
No, and again, this was just quick math. I'm just trying to.
That's just during like a regular work day.
How many yards a truck?
Correct.
How many yards a truck? 19?
Yeah, something about that. I think ours was around 600 or 700 trucks.
That's 768 trucks
Yeah.
times 2, because he has to come in and go out. That's over 1,500 vehicle trips
Okay, so my math is a little
spread over.
If you, yeah, I didn't count them coming back,
Yeah.
but there's.
And that's going to be front-loaded on your construction window because you have to get a flat site to put your building in, obviously,
Correct.
so it's going to compress that. Just, you may be looking for some mitigation measures for that. DOT will probably want to be aware of that as well.
Understood.
And I also have the comment about the loading space behind the building. Implementation of a stormwater maintenance easement should be made a condition of approval for this. The fencing you have around the stormwater management area has a gap along the front where you have your emergency spillway. You may want to take a look at that. Had a question regarding the water connection. I believe, as per the town, the main is on the opposite side of 82. Is that? Yeah, so you're going to have to go across 82 somehow, whether that's an open cut, jack and bore, directional drill, to get to that main. So that's going to affect your plan. The chain link fencing should have call out for vinyl privacy slats. And regarding the SWIP, the SWIP should probably be made its own separate document. Like right now, it's kind of wrapped up with sewage disposal system design, landscaping, other things like that. It should be split out separately. And the biggest concerns that we have on that are this entire project is being handled by 2 infiltration basins that are relying on groundwater infiltrating to handle it. So the concerns we have are the long-term viability of the permeability rates, looking, not 5 years into the future, but 20 years into the future. Because if over time those basins silt up and the rate at which surface runoff slows down, those could become less and less effective looking into the future. And there is nothing along the highway to receive any overflow from these ponds should they overtop in time. I think from the review during the 100-year event, there's minimum freeboard. You're going to need to have at least a foot of freeboard above the peak water surface elevation for the 100-year storm, and that's from your surface elevation to the spillway outlet. And then your berm needs to be above that. And also, in the calculations, what we're probably going to look for is modeling each of those ponds, not counting exfiltration at all. So in other words, assume that your exfiltration rate is 0 for the purposes of that, and then see what level your ponds get to. Because we're just concerned with over time, and I'm not even sure what kind of measures can be taken long-term to make sure these things continue to work. We do have testing. Our office witnessed that back in, I believe it was July of this year. So we're going to be looking very carefully at that. And if there is a discharge from the spillways, which based upon their model, they don't have, but models are models and real life is real life. We need to make sure that there's somewhere for this water to go that's not going to hamper or hinder anyone upstream or downstream of this.
Okay. So I think we still have quite a bit of information to come from the applicant, so we won't be able to schedule a public hearing tonight. But if you can come back with all of the information that we've talked about, we can talk about extending that into January. One thing I do want to mention is that we do have a letter from some of the residents. You can get a copy of that if you don't have one from the planning department. But we'll be reading that into the record when we do have the public hearing, as well as any other written letters.
I just asked, we did respond to a majority of the comments that we did receive. If we are able to, I'd like to see if there's a way we could schedule the hearing for December. We should be able to respond to any additional comments in the next week or two. But if not, happy to go in January.
Well, I do think a threshold issue for the board is just, is the board comfortable with the 14,500 cubic yards of fill that's going to be removed?
I think there's that. I think there's building design issues. There's representation to the fire advisory board. There's DOT questions that you haven't even touched on yet. I mean, and that's going to definitely affect the entire site. So I really think you need to get a little bit farther down the road.
Understood. We'll come back in December.
Yeah, like just for instance, if DOT comes back to you and says, no, we want one entrance, your whole configuration needs to change. And that's going to wind up being, whether it's good or bad, it's going to wind up being something that the public's going to need to be apprised of a second time.
Understood, and thank you for the comments. I'll follow up this week or next week with a phone call to discuss in more detail, so.
Okay.
Thank you,
We'll look
everyone.
forward to seeing you. The next item on the agenda is 10 Corporate Park.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bill Povall, engineer for the applicant, East Fishkill Corporate Park. We're here tonight looking for a change in use in a little over 7,000 square feet at 10 Corporate Park Drive. That's an existing building opposite on Route 52, next to the new warehouse they're building, opposite of the soccer fields. It's the front building on the corner of Corporate Park Drive and Route 52. The building's about 20 years old. We've had some vacancies now for quite some time. The Carpenters Union was in there for a very long time, and they rented quite a bit of space. They left almost 2.5 years ago. So now we're before the board tonight. There's a church group. That we're looking to lease the space to within the building. And with the church use, we have to come before the board for the change in actual use of that space. With the church use, there's no proposed changes to the exterior of the building, to the site. All the infrastructure that exists now would be utilized. The largest day of the use would be on Sundays when they have their services, and that offsets the businesses that are in the building now that are office, and they use it Monday through Friday. So with that, there's plenty of parking. They'd be looking for up to 100 parking spaces. I saw there was a comment. The site was approved for 113 parking spaces. The striping's slightly different out there now in a couple areas, but there's 113 parking spaces that exist, so that complies with the with the site plan approval as far as the number of spaces. And it's relatively, that's really where we're at. Just looking to utilize existing vacant space.
Is there any compliance issues like ADA compliance or anything that would need to be looked at?
Yeah, the facility is ADA compliant, and this would require renovations and fit up for this new space, and that would all have to comply with ADA.
And with the current building code, it might have varied from when it was before, so you're going to bring that site.
Everything would be brought up to code, correct.
So, Bill, I have a question. The space itself, or the suite, is almost 8,000 square feet?
Right now, there's about over 14,000 square feet of vacant space. The Carpenters Union, there was actually a U inside the building, and then there was another business in the center, and both those businesses are gone now, so that's all vacant space. So with the church group, they'd be utilizing the eastern side closest to the warehouse, and that would take up half the U, and then the center space would be split, so that now the church group would be in a rectangular on that half of the vacancy.
So basically, the church would take up how many square feet?
7,000.
So about 50%.
7,928, so.
And so the other half is currently occupied?
No, it's vacant.
Oh, that's, so it's,
Right. And then there is another tenant in the back that currently rents, and they have access on the back part of the building.
So then if we were to grant this, this would be for the entire building or just for the space, like a special permit for them to use this particular
It would
amount
be
of
for the
space?
space that he's asking for, that would be what the approval would be for, but that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, we just want the change in use for the space that's being leased because we want to continue the ability to lease the balance of the space for office.
Do you, do you have a floor plan that
I do.
shows like the number of seats? Because that'll go to the parking, and I'm just trying to understand, I mean, I know that,
Right.
that you're asking for like a shared parking arrangement, which makes sense.
Right, it was my understanding that the fire inspector will be setting the occupancy. So we're waiting for
He will be.
that.
I was just wondering if you guys have an understanding of how many seats they're going to be.
I think we're at about 100 to 130 or so.
Because I can't actually figure out parking until I know the number of seats.
Right. I know for churches in the town code, it's one parking space for every 5 seats. So we're going to be well under, even if we're at 200, it's still we're only required to have 40 spaces, but we're being.
It's just such a huge, I mean, it's 8,000 square feet, so that's what I'm just, are you using it in other ways? Are there going to be like offices?
Yeah, I have a floor
And,
plan. I can go through that with you.
Bill, is it fixed seating or?
I'm actually here with Greg. I just drew a blank for a second. Sorry. Who's with the church. So
It's not fixed seating, no.
Would you come up to the podium?
sorry.
I'm Pastor Greg from Grace Community Church, the new locations pastor for the church. We do, it's called pew-style seats. They're padded seats that you can sit, on comfortably, so they're movable, because we use the space, like if we have a potluck after church, we can pull them out of the way.
Movable, stackable.
Yeah, all stackable,
Right.
yeah. And then we can use the space for, if we have a youth event, we can pull chairs and, make it completely movable, makes the space available for multiple things. Yeah.
So that was going to be my question, was what kind of events are you going to be aiming to have here? Are you going to do concerts, shows, things
No,
like
ma'am.
that? Are you
Nope.
going to do school-type events, education, offices, meetings, things like that?
So there's 2 dedicated office spaces, one for the pastor, one for our operations coordinator that we have at each location. We have youth services during the week on Wednesday nights. Well, that'll happen. There's, at this location, probably 30, 40 youth. Well, so maybe 15 cars will be out in front of the building. Our main experience is on Sundays for worship services, which will be 2 services, 10 and 11:30. And you'll see a fluctuation of cars, obviously, as they're changing between services. But no huge events, no concerts, none of that stuff going on.
Isn't there going to be I know that, you're across from the soccer fields there, and on Saturday and Sunday morning, Sundays, there's a lot of people that use that lot because there's not enough parking for the soccer fields.
I can answer that.
Okay.
We've actually worked very closely with the soccer, with the soccer community, especially for tournaments, where we've given them parking. But we do, the parking is for this building. It's not for the soccer fields.
I understand that.
And we have had tenants complain at times, which we've addressed, and the soccer, East Fishkill Soccer has been very good working with us, and again, we've been working with them, especially when they have their Memorial Day tournament. They come out, they put signs in, and we let them park in different areas. So, and even with the soccer, the people that do kind of migrate over, most of them do park at the Wikipedia Plaza, and less at 10 Corporate.
My other question is, since this is a church, is that going to then takes this off the tax rolls, right?
No, it does not.
So I have a question just about the services. So you have the 2 different services, and how many folks do you typically see? I'm just trying to get at the numbers we're talking about at each of those services.
Absolutely, I can answer that. So we had, before the pandemic, we had a Fishkill location. We were actually renting the Ramada Inn, and we were doing a setup tear down type. Every Sunday, we would set up service and we would take it down. Our average attendance before COVID between the two services was 135 to 150 with two services. So you'd see 70 in one service and 45, 50. So there's volunteers, cars that'll be there for both services, but you see a transition of cars happening between first and second
where I was going
services.
to go with it. I was thinking that the services are somewhat close together, and I was just worried about the overlap. If you're getting close with the parking, is there a way to maybe make it, one of the services start 10 minutes later so that you don't have that overlap between the cars?
Yep, I can speak to that. So 10 o'clock service, our services run about an hour and 5 minutes. I'm also pastoring at our Port Jervis location. We have 125 spaces there. We see on average 135 to 140 in our first service. So we have a 10-minute window where people are exiting services, emptying parking spaces. We never run into transition problems with cars.
All right, so, and the space is basically, you can configure it any way you want essentially, because it's just going to be a big open room. And are you going to have like weddings and stuff like that at the?
We do not traditionally do weddings, no.
So there's no major events like that?
Food service or prep or anything of that?
No, no food service, no prep, no.
Yeah, one of the comments we had is just to provide a flow confirmation letter for the proposed church uses to make sure that if there are, events that the church use concentrated on a Sunday isn't overloading whatever septic system might be there. Is that on sewer or is that on?
No, it's on a septic system. We did look at that. Even with the church use, using Dutchess County design flow rates, we're still going to be a third less than the capacity of the system.
Okay, if you could just provide us all a letter for the file, just confirming that. And the only other question I had is, are there going to be any proposed signage for the church use?
All the signage would go on the existing sign placards that are by the door and out front. So there's no new signs being proposed.
Is there enough handicap spaces out there? I don't recall. Okay.
But going back again to the soccer parking, because I know that always was something that took place, people parking over there. So would you put a control measure there now in place to try to mitigate those people from parking there? So obviously that your tenant would be protected, or I know that you say this Wikipedia Plaza, is that a common property that has common ownership?
Well, Wikipedia Plaza actually has a parking in front of it.
Yes.
With an open field that's relatively close to 52. So
Yes.
typically that's the first place people will come and park. But again, we've been working pretty closely with the soccer community, and East Fishkill Soccer at times will have parents that volunteer to control parking during certain events in high parking.
So then you would deter them from parking?
Correct.
When services are in place?
Right. And with this particular project, one of the first things we'll do is talk to the East Fishkill group and let them know now that there's a tenant there on Sunday, and you definitely can't be parking in there.
Okay.
And they send out emails, to all the teams, and they have a pretty good line of communication.
Okay, other questions or comments?
You are applying for the shared parking special permit, so we do have to, because it's a special permit, we have to have a public hearing.
You do, huh?
Yeah. We also have, it's also I'll look to the attorney to make sure that I'm saying this correctly, but we also have in our code a special permit for church use as well. So would they be going for the church use and for the shared parking?
So I have a public hearing next month on both.
Sure.
Assuming the board agrees.
Sure. Will you be ready for public hearing next month?
Yep.
Okay.
Ready now.
As you probably already heard, Michelle instruct a previous applicant, you've got a very short window here to get it done, but it can still be done.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So I'll accept a motion to schedule a public hearing for this applicant for the December meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
All right.
good. We'll see
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, have a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Okay, the last item on the agenda is Forever Friends. And could I have a motion to declare intent to be lead agency? And please come ahead. So we do have a motion.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I'm recusing myself on this matter because I have a personal conflict.
Understood. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Brianna Russo. I own Forever Friends Family in Wappingers. We currently do boarding in our homes, not at the facility, dog training at the facility, professional grooming for cats and dogs, licensed to sell puppies and work with rescues as well, so we home pets all the time. And we also sell holistic pet supplies. So I already have a existing thriving, functioning business in Wappingers. My goal is to move to East Fishkill at 5 Ryan Drive. I want to add a chain link fence with privacy stuff included in it. It's on the survey as well, and I'm going to add a daycare to that facility. So doing everything we do already, just adding a daycare, but it's not a free-for-all daycare. All our dogs have to go through obedience training to come into a obedience functioning daycare. So it's not just play all day, it's encouraging good behaviors, so they go home trained and tired. Other than that, we still plan on doing the pet sitting in our homes 90% of the time unless there's an emergency. It works, fully insured, everything's going great. Past that, everything we're already doing is going well. So my goal is just to move to East Fishkill and expand.
Number of dogs you'd have with the daycare and the number that would be overnight potentially?
So there's about 20 rooms pre-existing. I don't plan on changing the structure of the building, other than that fence outside for playtime and potty. So if 2 of the rooms are for daycare, maybe 3 or 4 in a room with a trainer.
And the overnight?
Overnight, if it's emergency, because I already like the system we have going where they stay at our homes, but maybe 10 max. But I've maybe had 2 in the past 6 months stay overnight at my current facility. People like the home feel better.
Okay. But you said you're licensed to sell?
So we work with breeders and with rescues. So we home dogs, whatever the client's looking for and what fits your family.
But you're not then keeping them overnight while you're waiting to home them?
So those pets, not for the pet sitting, for the puppies, if there's puppies available or rescues available, probably about 5 of those rooms will be designated to that. So those dogs, let's just say, I currently do 15 max, so I want to say under 20.
Okay.
It never gets more than 15.
So those would stay overnight until they have their forever
Yes,
home?
and I have a huge security system already in place, 24/7 surveillance. We plan on doing a Knox box, I think you guys had sent us a message, and sprinkler system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fire alarm system, Knox box, sprinkler.
Yep.
We had a question, and I think you just answered it. That outside enclosure is not enclosed, it's just a fenced area?
Yeah, just for play and potty, and it's always going to be supervised. Somebody's walking the dog in and out real quick.
Thank you.
Not a free-for-all.
An employee staying overnight with the dogs there?
It's not necessary. The system's been working that we've been doing. All the dogs go to bed by 8, and they're quiet till 8 in the morning. Or well, actually, we get there at like 6:36. But I've never had one complaint, and we've been there 3 years in Wappingers. And the 5 Ryan is all commercial, so there's no real residential. There's an industrial thing on one side and another on the other. So it's pretty easy.
There's
Opposite side of the road.
Yeah, so just so everyone's familiar, this is the old Children's Medical Group on 82, okay? And Ryan, right at the corner. So they would be it's a change of use, they'd be repurposing the building for doggy daycare. They're adding outside the fenced-in area. They need a variance from the zoning board because they don't meet the 150-foot setback. They also would need it, I believe they're going to be slightly going into the front yard because their fenced-in area extends beyond the front of the building, and the building is on a corner lot, so they have like 2 front yards almost, but they would be going in. However, where their fenced-in area would be extending, there's already a line of very tall evergreen trees that buffer the fenced-in area from any visibility from 82. So it is, I've been out there a couple times, it is a good spot for that as far as visibility is concerned. It is up against the neighboring property, which is Alpine. A lot of contracting kind of there. And then across the street, across 82, there are a couple of residences. And then otherwise, everything else is, I think there's one residence on Ryan Drive on the other side of the gymnastics center. There's like one just kind of random house.
All the way at the end of the street?
And then there's some at the end of the street, but there's like one kind of smaller house that's sort of in the middle there, but it's still separated by a couple of other commercial businesses. So the main residential uses are across 82 from this facility.
And I'm assuming since it was the medical group, it's got sufficient parking even for the retail aspect of the business?
Plenty of parking, tons of parking.
So is this another situation, by the way, where it's a coordinated review with the zoning board like the prior applicant?
Correct, yeah, you'll need to refer them to the ZBA. And I don't know if you've actually already, I know we talked about you making application to the ZBA, but they haven't been in front of the ZBA yet.
I made it. They said to come next week, I think, at 7.
Okay,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
got it. Great. Okay, other questions, comments?
You said that you're going to need to sprinkle the building, is that correct?
To sprinkle it?
Yeah, sprinkler
I think
system.
she just made that comment. I think he meant more have a
Sprinkler system
control in
inside.
place.
Okay, is that going to require any upgrades to your water service?
There's a system in place already. So there's all the carbon detectors, there's the sprinkler system, there's, I believe the past owners, they're taking the security system, but I already have ADT, so I'm going to keep that.
And you said that the proposed kennel, that's just really a fence enclosure that's going to be resting on
Yeah, it's
the
not,
asphalt.
it's not like a boarding kennel run, it's more for playing.
I was more concerned if it was going to be a structure, there could be underground conduits serving the telephone
Oh, yeah.
equipment that's on there. As long as it's not a permanent structure, I'm not concerned
No.
about that. Should provide a detail for the proposed refuse enclosure, make sure that a garbage truck can access it because you're going to be eliminating some of those parking spaces with the kennel.
There's plenty of room for it.
And just show any proposed signage if you're anticipating
I'm
it.
going to keep their sign and just put my logo on it.
Okay.
It's in a good spot.
I'd asked for a short form EAF. I just got a packet of information just today, and I'll take a look through that. And did you prepare this response?
Yes.
Okay.
So any dogs that are there overnight, they'll be kept inside the kennels, crates, something like that?
Secure crates that are safe for them. What we currently do, we work with the Department of Agriculture. They license and approve us. It's all under regulations and well cared for. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? So,
Sorry, because do you have somebody that stays there overnight as well, or?
It's not needed. I could do it, but no, everybody goes to bed by a certain time and it's quiet. I could pull up my phone and the camera right now, everybody's passed out.
We're more concerned with if there is going to be people in there overnight. Like
No.
if there's an incident of some sort, are we looking for people in there? Are the dogs secure so our guys aren't going to get bitten?
Oh, they're all secure, locked up, and in individual rooms. So God forbid there was an emergency. The old doctor's office is perfect because all the dogs have their own rooms and they're already in crates. So they're in crates at night, but during the day they're free and controlled and monitored by us. It's not like a typical store where dogs are in a crate all day. They're out all day, so they're exhausted by 8 o'clock and they go right to bed.
Yeah.
And it's quiet. Not one complaint in 3 years.
okay, so we do need to set a public hearing, right?
So how are we coordinating? They're going to be, I'm just trying to think about how this is going to work. So they're going to come to you guys, they're going to have to go through one meeting, then they'll go to a public hearing. So our public hearing has to wait.
Okay.
Go ahead and do it. Okay, you can schedule it.
Scheduled for December. Will you be able to do that in December? Okay, so I'll accept a motion to schedule a public hearing for December for the applicant.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll see you in December. So, oh, I'm sorry. May I have a motion to refer the applicant to the zoning board?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
I think you're all set. I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Have a great Turkey Day, and I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks.